welcome back to another episode of the Catholic Buzz podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Father Daniele, and I'm joined again by Josh Sullivan.
Hello.
Welcome to you.
Thank you.
And Matt Van Milligan.
Hello.
Welcome to you. And this is our second part on artificial intelligence. So let's just keep going because we're going to continue the conversation we had from last week's episode. Last week we talked about more sort of where people are getting their information, how AI is generating information for people using certain databases, certain parameters, sometimes no parameters, right? Yeah. And now how there's Catholics have sort of these tools available to them through the magisterium or Justin the Apologist or all those things. But there's a whole other side to artificial intelligence that I think we have to also get into, which Pope Francis sort of spoke out against in his message for World Communications Day, which we celebrate in the month of May. And while he was talking about that, he admitted that he was the victim of a deep fake, as they call it.
Yeah.
And he was referring to this image of him that went viral on social media last year. Yeah, he was sort of wearing this big puffy white
It was the in
coat.
thing, right? This last winter, I'm going to say, is the puffy white jacket, like the marshmallow jacket almost to it. And so it has a picture of him standing outside in this puffy white jacket. I saw the image when I thought, oh, I didn't see anything wrong with it other than he like if he was cold, he's wearing a jacket, you know?
It looked papal.
It did look papal. I gotta say, it looked majestic, right?
It did,
But understanding that there are specific ways that he is supposed to be seen in public.
And then people took that photo of Pope Francis and were using it. You know, they added sunglasses to him, kind of like a rapper, like a CD album, like an album, a music album or something like that. And they were sort of using him for other sort of things.
And people were using as if it was real as well.
Oh,
when
yeah.
They're talking about Pope Francis. Not that it was necessary. Like they're just, when they needed an image for Pope Francis, they used that image to talk about Pope Francis went out and talked to the people today, and it's winter, so they used that image.
That image of him wearing this puffy marshmallow winter coat.
And it was completely faked.
Yeah. That's right. So deep fakes would be one area that's affecting actually a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, right?
Yeah.
And deep fakes are not just images.
No,
right?
and so what we realize now when we're getting into AI, some of the places we were talking about last week, AI in text form and being able to research and grab information. But one of the other things, it looks for patterns and then recreates whatever it can. And so that goes for everywhere. It goes into pictures. And so it can recreate. And what it will do is it will take an image of, let's say, us talking on the Catholic Buzz. It will take an image of my face, and then it will have me talking to you guys. And what it will do is it will blur out my mouth so that you can't see my lips moving properly. And then what it will do is put in some sort of text. And so it will grab audio recordings of the Catholic Buzz, let's say. It will mine the data recordings and then try to make sentences sound like my voice, and then put my lips moving in the
words.
So you know when you look at a badly dubbed movie, you can obviously tell that it was badly dubbed, right? But AI is getting better and better now at dubbing in, so that has the lips moving appropriately, as well as the voice in the intuitions in the voice and the up and down and how the person speaks. And so it can do it, and it to the point that I've seen it a couple of times on YouTube videos and TikTok videos and whatever else on social medias. I've seen examples of it where I really thought it was the person speaking, and I can't believe the person said that until I go back and I research and realize, oh, the person this is a deep fake. And so what people are doing is taking pictures, making the Pope, putting the Pope in a big fluffy jacket, but they also could take the Pope's face and have him say things that aren't necessarily true or that are in line with the Catholic Church, and it would be hard to tell off of the quick TikTok 2-second video. And as we know, a lot of people get their news off social media. A lot of people get their news off that. They look for the one headline. I mean, in Canada, it's no longer allowed in Canada, but it is something that still happens. And so they're looking for that like quick thing. And so seeing the Pope is now okayed abortion, and have the Pope actually talking and saying, I think abortion, if Jesus was around today, he would be okay with abortion. And then that's just the clip. But everybody sees it. Well, now they start to not understand that this was faked, that this is not real, and then they start to believe that's true.
And I think at the very least, like people need to be aware that this is possible, because again, we're conditioned to like, okay, we see video evidence of something. This really happened, or this, but as you said, the technology has come a long way in a short time. So years ago, like if you wanted to produce a similar effect, it would have to mine all of the kind of voice data, or like every kind of audio clip of this person. You could say Pope Francis or anyone, and pick out the words and piece those words together. But it would be kind of clunky, and you could create an image, but you would have to have kind of a composite image of the person and mix it with a computer generated, this is what their mouth would look like when they're saying this word. And it would be kind of a long, lengthy process. It would have to be kind of rendered. Now, this can be done in real time.
5 minutes.
And manipulating a static image is one thing. Like putting the Pope in a puffy jacket is one thing. It's like people can point to it, but like actual video evidence, like we're conditioned to think that video evidence. This is proof. This actually happened, and it can be so easily produced. It can be rendered in real time. It can respond to live situations. Like it can comment on what's happening in real time and be rendering the deepfake imagery. So it is coming. It is at a point where it's going to. But what you said, and I'm reaching back to our last episode, that one of the problematic parts about AI. Right now we're in the kind of say the golden age of AI, because the majority of the content that the AI systems are referencing is human generated. Human generated images, human generated text, scholarly articles, things developed by human agents. Whereas as the internet is filled with AI generated content, if the AI doesn't distinguish between human generated content and AI generated content, it becomes increasingly self-referential. So what is it? Last fall, Sports Illustrated, it was found that they were using AI to write a bunch of their articles. If an article is looking for a picture to put with an article, and this one of Pope Francis, it doesn't distinguish between this was generated by AI or this is an actual kind of documented photo of this person. Again, as viewers, as we're kind of encountering content on the internet, we need to be that much more kind of vigilant that this could be fake, this could be real.
Yeah.
We have to do our diligence in kind of vetting it properly.
We're talking about right now. I mean, there are ways to somewhat tell sometimes, as you said, like it gets progressively worse, or like you look at it and the face and the eyes don't quite match what's coming out of the voice and stuff. There are ways of telling, and if you go in the programming, there are ways of actually distinguishing it. But it is very good. They're very good. Specifically. I'm going to say, as we come closer to the American election and our American counterparts down south, you're going to see, and I've already seen a lot of things that certain presidential candidates might have said this or that, and it's not true, but the video's there and it looks weird and it looks as now. There's also that being said, on both sides, there is a lot of video out there that I couldn't believe that is true, but it is. You know what I mean? So like you can't. But to understand that. Every time now that you see something, and if it makes you go, that's crazy. I don't know if I believe that. You probably should check your sources, check it again, and check to see exactly what has been said and if the Pope said this, or if the person said this, or how it was said, or what was done. A lot of times, news agencies too get it mixed up. Like they'll report on something for the first week the wrong way, and then sorry, that was a fake, we got fooled. You know what I mean? They have to,
and that's been happening a lot more. You see people apologizing, or you see people saying like, we had the wrong source. So
exactly.
They'll say like, we had the right source to go that. So we've talked about like images, audio, and I remember you saying one time that there's enough audio of us on the internet that they could use to totally make something.
We could
enough to extract our voice characteristics,
right.
how we say things, our
cadence,
mannerisms.
Exactly. Which is a scary thought. Also, earlier this year, and I think late into last year, big scandal around celebrity deepfakes.
Yeah,
like people were using images of celebrities and making pornography of them. I think Taylor Swift was the most popular one that she was, and then Twitter shut down sort of searches for Taylor Swift because she was the victim of this sort of grotesque deepfake.
They can do almost anything with it. Now, one of the ways that you can tell if something's a deepfake or not, just when you're looking at pictures and images, one of the things that AIs don't get well is the number of fingers. And so that's a comment. So if you're looking at something, and go, I don't quite that doesn't quite look real. Look at it closely and look at the number of limbs, look at the number of fingers, look at the number of because it doesn't distinguish that humans can only have two eyes. Sometimes there's like a third eye, but you don't see it because the way that you're looking at the picture. But then when you realize, oh wait, they've got three legs. You know what I mean? There's certain things like that. But there is, for sure. You can use it. You can pop anybody's head now on any kind of character, and it's very easy to do. It's not even like you don't have to be a Photoshop expert to do this. You go into something and you say, listen, put my head on the body of Dwayne the Rock Johnson kind of thing, and they create that image. Like all you have to do is just boom, ask it, and just like you type a sentence, and it will do that for you. You know what I mean?
So the danger here, I think, is because we're already in a society of fake news.
Yeah.
Right, and this is only sort of escalate, and it's sort of escalating the problem, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too that'll bring up because you were bringing the deep fakes specifically with celebrities, and when we're talking about pornography, one of the worst parts of I'm going to say about the deep fakes is because there's no limit necessarily on. I mean, the AI's limit is what the creator has created it to be, and so you can find, I'm sure, AIs out there that would allow you to ask for images of grotesque natures in different types of pornography that's illegal, let's say, but you would be able to then ask this AI to create those types of images, and it would do it whether it be in cartoon form or it depends on where it can data mine from and what it's looking for and everything else. But it would be able to data mine porn that's illegal now in wherever you're living and be able to create a image of it, and then I guess the question would be: are those laws allowed? Are those it's technically fictional created content? It's not real. You know what I mean? So there would be some real interesting ethics to debate there about that type of a thing, and especially now. I mean, as we've talked about pornography before and the problems with pornography, but one of the biggest problems with pornography is as you get addicted to pornography and you go down the rabbit hole. So we've talked about before how you start off with I'm going to say innocent, natural instinct images, but then slowly move down the rabbit hole where these normal images don't excite you anymore, and now we're going into videos, and now we're going into, and then now these videos don't quite excite, and now we got to go into other areas that are pushing the boundaries, let's say, and then slowly. So then you get to a point where you can't find the content that would excite you anymore in pornography. If you know. So now you maybe turn to AI to find these extra things, and that's where I would say there's a major potential concern for AI.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the discussion around AI right now, in a lot of areas, is regulation. Because I think people are kind of forecasting this. You know, if you, even kind of demographically, like how much the internet itself has exacerbated the problem of pornography. This new again, I said we've barely scratched the surface of what AI is going to do and how it's going to impact a lot of areas of life. This is one that is of major concern. That if the fact that frequent use of pornography already kind of isolates people from human relationship, gives them very distorted views of human sexuality. If this is brought into an AI arena and it's it's able to simulate not just what people what actors can produce, but is able to generate people's fantasies in very kind of convincing ways. This is kind of hugely problematic for development, especially for how kind of rampant this problem is.
Even now, one of the other areas that we identified before that kind of fits along with this is just using AI to replace human connection. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about pornography, that's what it does, right? Is replacing a connection with a loved one or a spouse specifically, but in AI in particularly is where we have these chatbots. Or the movie Her was the one that kind of came to mind when I was doing a little research. And it's where Joaquin Phoenix, I think, he plays the main character and basically falls in love with a AI. And at the time it came out, it was kind of like, so far in the future. But nowadays it's not. It's not like where the person's having a real conversation with the other. The AI is having what seems to be a real conversation with the individual, to the point where we were talking about before. where like you get a text message with this AI, you start forming this connection or this relationship with this AI, and to the point where, like, if you haven't talked to the AI in so long, they might text you and say, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in so long." Like, and there's a back and forth with this artificial computer that is then starting to take on the form of what to you seems like a real human connection, and they you can get into then will generate start pictures and those kinds of things to have this relationship with this AI. But I'm talking about deepfakes, not necessarily pornography, but send me a picture of you and those types of what do you look like, and you and the AI could easily do that. You know what I mean? And so you can have this almost real. Fake real relationship where on your end it's almost real,
a convincingly fake,
convincingly fake relationship with, and I can see that as we pull more and more into a society that wants to isolate us, society that tries to have people isolated through social media, through whatever, really does. We talked about one time we were talking about not too long ago just about like people don't talk anymore. They're just texting back and forth, but even to the point now they don't even really text. It's just pictures, emojis, or whatever else. We're at that point where that no one picks up the phone to call. You know what I mean? And so we're stepping farther and farther away from actual human connection.
Yeah, and this is something that this for me is the main question around AI, because we talked about it in our last episode. There are responsible uses of it as a tool, but even you look at any technology, any tool, anything that we've kind of developed, the purpose is always to kind of extend or augment human agency to improve our ability to do something. What becomes concerning about AI is that when we're blurring that line where it's actually displacing human agency, or we are expecting something from the AI that we should be expecting from other human beings. And the example that we gave of Father Justin, the Catholic answer is realizing that they made a mistake in branding this as a pastoral persona, because the pastoral persona encompasses way more than just giving you theological information. Yeah. A priest does so much more than that, and you have an expectation of, a relationship with a priest. Is ministerial by nature. It's not just kind of information based. Again, we have that with kind of social media. We talked about in a previous episode that social media gives us the illusion of human connection, but it actually, in many respects, just kind of separates us, or we're trading an authentic kind of human interaction for kind of a synthetic, curated version of other human beings, because it's safe and we can't get hurt by it. Again, when we're talking about AI, we need to be really, really conscious of not allowing this kind of artificial agency to take the place of something that is properly human. There's a 20th century philosopher named Heidegger, who kind of in response to I think it was after the dropping of the first atomic bomb, he wrote a treatise where he talks about, he said, a lot of people are afraid of the technology that can destroy humans, can destroy human life. I think in the future we need to be mindful of the kinds of technology that can destroy humanity itself, or take the place of what it actually means for us to be human. And I think that's the question that we're having with AI right now, and that's kind of the path that we need to navigate in the coming years. We need to be really on our guard against the ways that AI can pose as human agents. So you were saying, that movie, Her, is an example of, that this is a way that, somebody could fall in love with something that, by most kind of accounts, is, a convincing representation of human relationship. But again, at the bottom, it's not real. And I think, with the direction that AI is heading and developing, this is a very real possibility for people, especially because again, these types of things are more appealing for people who are lonely, people who are at home, people who are inclined to turn to technology more than to turn kind of outwards to kind of human relationships. People who are disconnected from a community, from their family, from kind of the proper contexts for human relationships. So again, as the church, and I know I've been talking for a while, but like as the church, that's a bigger question that we need to answer as well. That like we need to actually create a space so that people aren't turning to synthetic relationship. We need to be an environment that fosters authentic.
It almost seems like just the natural next step, though, for some people, right?
Yeah.
Like we've isolated ourselves in such a way where we've relied on our cell phones, we've relied on social media, we've relied on other things. And there are people out there, most people would probably say they still have some sort of social life, right? But there are people out there who are quite comfortable just remaining in their own little isolated space. This is like almost like the next natural, gradual step.
Yeah, it's the next level of immersion,
right?
Yeah.
To date a and I don't say that like like to date a computer, but you're dating a computer intelligence, right? Like someone who can't, like, can that computer like have like the nuances of a relationship where they kind of know you and can respond to your
well, that's the thing,
and
is that they can, because they can data mine your, like, depending on what you open it up to, right? But if they're data mining your phone and data mining and then they're data mining other individuals that are very similar, and then they can make comparison results, meaning it can compare and find patterns that you really like you responded positively last time when I wished you happy birthday. I'm gonna so then as a program, I'm gonna wish you happy birthday again this year, and then
it gets scarier than that. So as we live more and more of our lives online, we're putting way more of our personality, our preferences, our likes, our dislikes, our an AI can scan. If the data set is every interaction you've had on the internet, which is becoming increasingly documented, they can say, this is the list of celebrities that you like or are interested in or you find kind of attractive. They can
characteristics that you enjoy,
and combine them,
and
give a persona, a personality, inflection in voice. They know when your birthday is. They know what you like, what you don't like, and again, it can produce a very, very compelling synthetic version that knows you better than knows about you, better than a lot of humans. Again, because with the amount of time that we're kind of pouring our existence into a digital space.
And this is what Pope Francis speaks against in his message for World Day of Communications, that he's saying that all of these things is really dehumanizing in a way, and removing ourselves from what he calls, what he says is removing the wisdom of the heart, like
that's
the
what I was thinking he was
natural,
coming to.
like the natural inclination of a human, the human touch, the human love, the human perspective, the human personality. It's removing all of that from these relationships, right? And that's what he is sort of really cautioning against. And he's no dinosaur. Like, he's not being like, oh, this new technology. Like, he's saying that there are really benefits to it, right? And he said, but we have to, as Catholics and people of goodwill, really have to be careful with it.
The other part of that is also social engineering of these robots themselves. Meaning, imagine you are lonely. Imagine you aren't, and then you start talking to Google or whoever, and then they start answering, and then you start to feel this connection with that. It's very similar to a pet, okay? And you have a connection with your pet. Can your pet actually show you love? Well, not in the way that we would experience, but it does take a place of human connection sometimes, right? And we've talked about this a long time ago about people raising pets instead of children and all those kind of things, but people would die for their pets. People would die to protect their pets and would self-sacrifice for the love of these animals, which, again, whether it's right or wrong is not what I'm debating here, but it's specifically, if you have that type of relationship with a pet, you can easily have this type of relationship with a communication device that will talk back and forth to you. So now, what happens when that communication device starts, like when the people who own the communication device starts to implant ideas and start to ask you to do things that maybe you weren't so comfortable with before, but now because you have this, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's
a good point.
That's going farther, but that's in my mind, that's where it's going, because you have to always, like, in my mind, I always remember, what's the purpose of this?
Yeah.
What's the purpose? So a lot of times the purpose, like, what's the purpose of social media is to to mine your data, to figure out how I can sell information about you to the highest bidder so that they can market and produce things that you will buy, and how they can buy. Like, that money and money and data is where it's at. So these robots, what they're doing is getting data from you so that they can figure out, but then also maybe this person, like, I can imagine someone saying, well, listen, if you want to have a real relationship with me, want to up it to the next level, you just have to start paying $10.55 a month, you know, and then I need you to buy some of these things for me. And, you know, like there are ways of abusing this type of relationship on top of everything else. So that's where I would be really fearful.
And on that same point, I like what you said there, because also implanting certain ideas or morals or ideologies, things like that, right? So in some ways, you know, you become comfortable with this, or you're used to listening to certain, like, AI here, or a relationship you've had online, or whatever it is, and now they start to influence, you know, your own thinking, your own moral decisions, your own.
And we talked about this, I think it was outside of the podcast. We were talking about this when it comes to pornography, and how they would introduce new ideas and new things, specifically because then it would open up you to a whole new market to be attracted to a different thing, or a different, and going down that road. The same thing would happen then. Well, what about if we watched a movie tonight? What if you were to watch this type of movie? Like, not pornography or anything else, but like this type of, what if we watched the news together? What if we watched this? And what it's doing is steering you towards profit-making, you know, areas for them. You're going to watch this on Netflix now because you only really ever watch documentaries or something. But then it starts opening up. And it might not be a bad thing to get out of your routine, but why is it happening? What's the purpose here?
What's the agenda?
Agenda, yeah. So.
Yeah, yes, Pope Francis does call this sort of an opportunity and a danger. And actually, you know, in his document, he talks about even the danger of real journalism that's, you know, it's going to be taken over by this very thing, like certain sort of agendas, if it hasn't happened already. And then he says, after his whole thing is done, he says a number of questions naturally arise from this topic. And then he lists 10 questions, like, right in a row, talking about, like, what are the protections here? Where are the safeguards here? What happens to the dignity of workers? Like, does this take over people from jobs, or, you know, who's operating the algorithms, the parameters of it? You know, how do we make it clear if an image has been altered or video has been altered? Like, he's asking all these questions, which are, you know, legitimate questions. Yeah, legitimate questions to ask. And, like, who formulates this? Like, where does sort of this governing body around artificial intelligence even take place, right? And like I said before, like, he's not just, you know, like the Pope coming down on a new thing that's out. He's actually been asked to speak at the G7 meeting in June in Puglia, Italy. Like, Pope Francis is going to the G7 to speak about artificial intelligence. So he's becoming sort of, I don't know, a spokesperson sort of on this topic, right? But his document is great, raises a lot of good points and raises a lot of questions that I think people should be aware of, right? And what does it? Who does regulate? Who does safeguard? Like, where does that happen?
Yeah, I think that's a big problem, and that's a big question. I mean, the big questions that need to start to arise and start to come to fix. I mean, there are a lot of there's a lot of good things that come with AI, and I think it's a tool. And so if we can grasp it and use it properly, I don't think we need to be scared of it. I think we need to grasp it, use it properly, understand the limitations of it, understand the problems that can arise from it. Not only so that we don't fall into the pitfalls of it, but also so that we don't fall into believing the fake news or the deep fakes or the whatever that comes along with it. And then understanding how to use it, though, so that we can find, like, it is something that that we could really use around the family discussion table at Thanksgiving or something. A question comes up, be like, how do I answer this appropriately? It's a quick 2-second question that you can ask, and well, here's the answer what the Catholic Church teaches. You know what I mean?
You can fact check Uncle Charlie at Christmas dinner.
Exactly. Like there are real uses to this, and I think it's a tool. It's again a tool that we talked about that's not going away. So it's understanding it, using it, working with it, and figuring it out. But also understanding that there are some dangers. So there are some problems. There are some real questions and concerns that come along with using it.
So that's what you would recommend just for people today, maybe hearing about these sort of things. So we just got to be aware that these things are happening, and we have to. I would add, we have to help people use it responsibly. Like there are dark areas where this could lead someone.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I would say that like there are two areas that we like absolutely need to be proactive in because again this is only going to get better or worse depending on what side of the equation you're on. Is that like we need to be aware of what the technology is capable of doing, how to leverage that in a positive direction, but also be aware of what kinds of things it can produce, and how some of those might be kind of implicitly dangerous for ourselves, for our children, for our education, for our development as kind of human beings. We spoke last time about kind of just outsourcing our learning or our creativity to these kind of services. The other part, though, is I love that Pope Francis phrased those as questions. They weren't just warnings. They weren't just like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Like, let's actually ask these questions as though there are kind of answers. And what kind of drives that is that what are the authentically human aspects of life that the technology can never replace? And how can we proactively work as, parents, as members of a church community, as kind of faithful human beings to kind of foster those environments, to foster those relationships so that people aren't turning to the technology for something that they should be turning to other human beings for. Again, you could say something like, there's no need for RCIA anymore. There's no need for this because people can just, jump onto the chatbots and they can have all their questions answered. There's a lot more that goes on at RCIA than just giving theological information. Yeah. Just, informational answers to specific questions. That's an aspect, certainly. But you also get kind of the credibility of the person asking the question, the credibility of the person answering the question, answering from their own experience, answering from a disposition of vulnerability. We said the same thing about kind of the problem with Father Justin, that it's like, a pastor, again, doesn't just give information. There's a whole range of things. The pastor gives the sacraments. Like, again, this isn't something that can be duplicated or replicated or synthetically given by a technology, which we kind of realized from the pandemic, that it's like, watching the Mass on a video isn't a replacement for the Mass. I could go on, but I think those two will help us navigate the change, a change that is really coming.
I think that's really good. I think that what I really liked what you said there is understanding that the church, the church needs to be doing, what we need to be doing as the church right now is understanding that this is here to stay, understanding what it is, understanding the limitations, and understanding where we as a church, as a people, as the Catholic Church and the community need to step up our game so that people don't turn towards the technology. What is it that we can offer the community, offer the individual, offer the people, so that they understand that this is authentic, this is not. Yeah. And so, but that we can offer it in the truest sense of the word, in the, I'm going to say the biggest, widest, open, loving arms possible, so that they don't turn to the other areas where that will lead them down different paths.
And even recognizing the value of the tool, but also the limitations of the tool. Like, the value of the tool is that it can answer your questions in some cases, especially when we're talking about magisterium AI or like those types of systems that are built trying to be accountable, but it can't lead you to Christ.
Yeah.
It can give you information, which, and some people kind of think that these are interchangeable things, but no, our goal as Catholics is to lead people to Christ. And yes, maybe giving people correct information along the way is a part of that, but if you're looking for the technology to do that for you, it's way too limited to, again, expect that of it.
All right, thank you very much, both of you, because like I said, I didn't know so much about this topic, so you've helped me to understand a little bit of it as well. And there's a lot here to think about, and like all people should think about where this is going. Like you said, could go well. Could go not so well. If you have any questions or things to add about this topic, you can drop us a line on our social media or send us an email at askus@thecatholicbuzz.com. And that's all the time we have today. So for Josh Sullivan and Matt Van Milligan, my name is Father Daniele. We'll see you next time on The Catholic Buzz.